The alarm bells rang across the defense station. Admiral looked up from his morning tea, his blue skin shifting to a worried purple shade. In 300 years of service, those bells had never sounded for a real threat. "Admiral, we have an unknown contact approaching the outer system," reported Lieutenant Ara, her 4 arms dancing across the control panels. "It's big, sir. Really big." Move to the main display screen. The image showed a massive ship moving through space like a dark mountain. It was larger than anything in the Galactic Confederation database. The ship looked strange compared to the smooth, white vessels of civilized races. This one was gray and black, covered in sharp edges and what looked like weapon ports. "How big?" asked. 3 kilometers long, sir. Mass readings are off our charts." The Admiral felt his stomach turn. No peaceful species built ships that large. But surely this was just another warrior culture that needed guidance. The Confederation had civilized dozens of aggressive races over the past 1,000 years. "Send the standard greeting," he ordered. The communication officer sent out the peaceful first contact message that had worked for centuries. For long minutes, there was only silence. Then the speakers crackled to life. "This is Captain of the UES Retribution." The voice was harsh and strange, speaking broken galactic standard. "We come seeking dialogue." Exchanged looks with his crew. None of them had heard of humans before. The name wasn't in any database. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral of the Defense Corps. Welcome to our space. We represent the Galactic Confederation of Peaceful Worlds. Please state your intentions." There was a pause. Then the alien voice replied, "We are explorers from Earth. We wish to make contact with your Confederation." The way the human said Confederation made it sound like a question. Try to stay calm. First contact was always delicate. "We welcome you, travelers from Earth. Would you like to meet with our diplomatic corps? We have procedures for new species wishing to join our peaceful alliance." Another pause. "Yes, we will talk." Smiled and sent the report to Confederation headquarters. Within hours, news had spread across the galaxy. A new species had been found. The diplomats were excited. The military was curious. The historians were already preparing welcome ceremonies. On the capital world of New Harmony, the Confederation Council called an emergency meeting. Chancellor, a tall being with golden skin and no hair, read the initial reports. "The ship appears to be a warship," said Defense Minister, "but that's normal for primitive species. Once they learn about our peaceful ways, they always convert." "The size is concerning," added Science Advisor. "Why would they need such a large vessel?" "Probably compensation," laughed Cultural Minister Ara. "Aggressive species often build big things to make themselves feel important. Remember they had massive battleships too. Now they make art and poetry." The council agreed to send their best diplomatic team. Ambassador Ara would lead the mission. She had successfully converted 15 warrior cultures to peaceful ways. The humans would be no different. Back at the defense station, watched the human ship through telescopes. It moved with surprising grace for something so large. But as they got better images, details became more disturbing. The hull was and patched in many places. Burn marks suggested this ship had seen real combat. Weapon ports lined every surface like the teeth of some space monster. Sensor arrays stuck out like insect legs. This wasn't just a warship. It was a warship that had been fighting. "Sir," called the sensor operator, "I'm reading some strange energy signatures from their ship." "What kind of strange?" "Their power core is putting out more energy than some of our space stations, and their weapon systems." The operator paused, checking his readings twice. "Sir, if these readings are correct, they could destroy this entire defense fleet." "Felt cold. Check your equipment, run the scans again." The readings came back the same. The human ship carried enough firepower to level planets. "Maybe they're just defensive weapons," suggested the communications officer hopefully. Some species are very paranoid. But wasn't convinced. He had seen many species make first contact. The peaceful ones came in exploration ships or diplomatic vessels. They came with scientists and ambassadors. The humans had come in what looked like a mobile fortress. As Ambassador Ara's ship approached the human vessel, sent one final report to headquarters. He recommended extreme caution. The humans might not be like other species. His warning was ignored. The Confederation had dealt with warrior cultures before. They always chose peace once they saw the benefits of civilization. The human ship, Retribution, waited in space like a sleeping giant. Its captain stood on the bridge looking at the approaching diplomatic vessel. Her crew moved around her with quiet efficiency. "Ma'am, the aliens are requesting permission to board," reported her communications officer. Nodded. She was a veteran of the Mars colony wars and the Titan rebellion. She had fought pirates in the Jupiter system and corporate armies in the asteroid belt. She knew what war looked like, and she could smell it coming. "Let them board," she said, "but keep the weapons charged. Something tells me this peaceful confederation isn't going to like what they find." The airlock cycled open to admit the alien diplomats. As they stepped aboard the human vessel, they had no idea they were about to discover something that would change the galaxy forever. They thought they were meeting another species that could be civilized and controlled. Instead, they were about to meet humanity, a species that had turned war into an art form and carried it to the stars. The age of galactic peace was about to end, and none of them knew it yet. The universe was about to learn why humans had conquered there not through harmony with nature, but by becoming the most successful predators their planet had ever produced. Ambassador Ara stepped through the airlock and immediately knew something was wrong. The air was thick and heavy, filled with more oxygen than any civilized species could handle safely. The lighting was dim and harsh, creating deep shadows everywhere. Everything felt hostile. The corridor was narrow and cramped. Metal walls showed scratches and dents from heavy use. Pipes and cables ran along the ceiling like veins in some mechanical beast. This wasn't how enlightened species built their ships. This looked like something made for war. "Welcome aboard the Retribution," said a voice behind them. The aliens turned to see their first human. Captain was tall and lean, with dark hair tied back and scars on her hands. Her clothing was practical and worn. But what disturbed the aliens most were her eyes. They faced forward like a predator's, not to the sides like prey animals. "I am Ambassador Ara of the Galactic Confederation," the alien said in careful galactic standard. "We come in peace to welcome you to our alliance of civilized worlds." Smiled, showing white teeth, the aliens stepped back. In their cultures, showing teeth was a threat display. "Follow me to the meeting room," said. "Watch your heads. We build things smaller than you're probably used to." As they walked through the ship, the aliens saw more disturbing things. Human crew members moved with quick, efficient motions. They carried tools that looked like weapons. Their casual conversations mentioned things like combat drills and weapon maintenance, as if violence was normal. The meeting room was simple, a metal table with hard chairs around it. No comfort items or artistic decorations. Everything was functional and harsh. "Please sit," said, pouring herself a cup of black liquid from a metal container. "Would you like some coffee?" Science officer scanned the liquid with a small device. His eyes went wide. "Captain, this beverage contains enough stimulants to be classified as a combat drug by our standards." Laughed and drank it anyway. "Coffee's pretty mild compared to what we usually drink. This is the weak stuff." Ambassador Ara felt worried. She had never met a species that used combat drugs casually. "Perhaps we could discuss your planet's history. How did your species develop space travel?" "Through war, mostly," said casually. "We spent about 5,000 years fighting each other, got pretty good at it. built better and better weapons until we could finally build ships strong enough for space travel. The aliens exchanged horrified looks. Most species developed space flight through peaceful cooperation and scientific advancement. Only the most primitive cultures advanced through conflict. "Surely your people have moved beyond violence?" asked cultural specialist Ara. "Moved beyond it," looked confused. "Why would we do that? Violence solved most of our problems. We fought diseases, wild animals, other humans, harsh environments. Fighting is what we do best." Dr. Eth tried a different approach. "What about your government? How do you maintain order?" "Military structure mostly," replied. "Works pretty well. Everyone knows their place, follows orders, gets things done. We tried other systems, but they were too slow when enemies attacked." The word enemies hung in the air like a poison cloud. The Confederation had eliminated the concept of enemies centuries ago. There were only friends and future friends. "Captain," Ambassador Ara said carefully, "perhaps you don't understand. The Confederation maintains peace through cooperation and understanding. We have no enemies because we have no conflicts." Stared at her for a long moment. "No conflicts? How do you solve disputes?" "Through discussion and compromise. Violence is never necessary among civilized beings." "What if someone refuses to compromise? What if they want to hurt you anyway?" "That simply doesn't happen. All rational beings choose peace when shown its benefits." Was quiet for several minutes. Finally she asked, "What if they're not rational? What if they just want to destroy you because they enjoy destroying things?" The aliens had no answer. Their society had eliminated such beings long ago through therapy and rehabilitation. The meeting was interrupted by a sudden alarm. Emergency lights flashed red, and a voice spoke over the ship's communication system. "Captain to engineering, we have a power coupling failure in Section 7. Stood up, excuse me, minor emergency." The aliens followed her through the corridors to the engineering section. What they saw there would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Chief Engineer Martinez was working on an exposed power line that sparked with deadly electricity. She wore no protective gear and seemed completely unconcerned as energy arced around her hands. "You should use the safety equipment," said. "This is faster," Martinez replied, grabbing the live cable with her bare hands. "Just need to reroute the power flow." Dr. Eth's medical scanner went crazy. "That electrical current would kill any of our species instantly. How is she still alive?" "Humans are tough," said with pride. "We evolved on a death world. Everything there wanted to kill us, so we got hard to kill." Martinez finished the repair and wiped her hands on a cloth. "All fixed, Captain. Should be good for another few thousand hours." As they walked back to the meeting room, Engineer asked, "What kind of planet produces beings who can survive that much electricity?" "Earth's pretty rough," admitted. "Massive storms, deadly animals, poisonous plants, extreme weather. Most of the planet will kill you if you're not careful, and even if you are careful." "How does anyone survive there?" whispered cultural specialist Ara. "By being tougher than everything that wants to kill you," said simply. "By fighting back harder than it fights you. By never giving up no matter what." The aliens realized they weren't dealing with a normal species. Humans had evolved in hell and learned to call it home. They had turned survival into an art form and violence into a science. Back in the meeting room, Ambassador Ara tried to continue negotiations. "Captain, our Confederation offers membership to all peaceful species. We can provide technology, trade opportunities, and cultural exchange. All we ask is that you follow our peaceful ways." "What does that mean exactly?" asked. "Surrendering your weapons, accepting pacification protocols, and allowing your ship to be converted to peaceful purposes." Was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was very calm and very cold. "Ambassador, you're asking us to give up everything that makes us human. We are what we are because we fight. Take that away, and we're not human anymore. But surely you can see the benefits of peace. I see the benefits of being ready for war, replied. Peace is what you have when everyone else is too afraid to fight you. The meeting ended badly. The aliens left the human ship feeling sick and confused. They had expected to find another species that could be civilized and controlled. Instead, they had found something that civilization couldn't touch. As their shuttle returned to the diplomatic vessel, Ambassador Ara sent her report to the Confederation Council. Her message was simple but terrifying. The humans are not like us. They are not like anyone. Recommend extreme caution in all future dealings. Her warning, like admirals before it, was ignored. The Confederation Council meeting lasted 3 days. Ambassador Ara's report sat on the table like a dead animal that no one wanted to touch. Her warnings about human nature were too disturbing to accept. Clearly, the ambassador misunderstood their culture, declared Chancellor. No species can be as violent as she describes and still achieve space flight. Defense Minister agreed. Every warrior culture we've encountered chose peace once they understood the benefits. The humans will be the same. Perhaps we need to be more firm with them, suggested Trade Minister. Show them the consequences of refusing civilization. The Council voted to send an ultimatum to the humans. Join the Confederation peacefully or face economic sanctions and military enforcement. It was the same message they had used successfully for over 1,000 years. Captain read the ultimatum on her bridge. Her officers gathered around her, waiting for orders. The message was clear. Surrender all weapons, submit to pacification protocols, and allow the Retribution to be converted into a peaceful research vessel. They had 72 hours to comply. Ma'am, asked Commander, her second-in-command, what are our orders? Was quiet for a moment, thinking about her crew and her ship. These people had followed her through the darkest parts of space. The Retribution had been their home for 15 years, fighting pirates and corporate armies. Now some alien government wanted to take all of that away. Send a reply, she said finally. Tell them we decline their generous offer. The response reached the Confederation 3 hours before the deadline expired. The Council was shocked. No species had ever refused their ultimatum. This is impossible, Chancellor said. They must not understand what we're offering them. Or the consequences of refusal, added Defense Minister. Within hours, Patrol Fleet Delta was dispatched to enforce the ultimatum. 20 ships surrounded the human vessel. Each patrol ship was larger than most species' warships, designed to intimidate primitive cultures into surrender. Commander led the patrol fleet. He had done this dozens of times before. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, accept the inevitable submission. It was a simple formula that always worked. Human vessel, he broadcast, you are surrounded. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. On the Retribution's bridge, watched the alien ships take position around her. Her tactical officer counted 20 contacts, all armed with standard Confederation weapons. Ma'am, reported Lieutenant Martinez, they're not taking any defensive positions. They're just sitting there in formation. Smiled grimly. They think this is going to be easy. Orders, Captain, asked Commander. Stood up and walked to the main display. The alien ships floated around her like toys in a bathtub. They were built for show, not for real fighting. She could see it in their design's smooth curves, bright colors, minimal armor. These people had forgotten how to fight. Battle stations, she ordered quietly. Alarms sounded throughout the ship. The crew moved with practiced efficiency to their combat positions. Weapon systems came online. Shields activated. The Retribution transformed from an exploration vessel into what it truly was, a machine built for war. Commander saw the change on his sensors. The human ship is powering weapons. All ships prepare for defensive action. but his ships weren't ready for what happened next. The Retribution didn't announce its intentions or demand surrender. It simply opened fire. The first salvo destroyed 3 patrol ships instantly. Plasma beams tore through their hulls like paper. The explosions lit up space with brilliant flashes of light. Return fire screamed. The patrol fleet's weapons were designed for crowd control and intimidation. They fired energy bolts that would disable most civilian ships. Against the Retribution's military-grade shields, they might as well have been throwing rocks. The human ship moved like a living thing. Instead of staying in one place and trading shots, it accelerated through the patrol formation, firing in all directions. Its weapons were precise and deadly. Every shot found its target. 2 more patrol ships exploded. Another lost its engines and began spinning helplessly. A 4th ship's bridge was destroyed, killing everyone on the command deck. "This is impossible," whispered. "One ship cannot defeat 20. But the humans weren't playing by Confederation rules. They had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing other humans, beings just as smart and dangerous as themselves. These aliens were like children with toys. The Retribution's crew worked with silent efficiency. No panic, no hesitation. They had trained for this their entire careers. Captain gave orders in a calm voice while plasma beams lit up space around them. "Target their engines first," she instructed. "Let them watch their friends die before we finish them." It wasn't just superior weapons or better shields that gave the humans their advantage. It was their mindset. The aliens fought to disable and capture. The humans fought to destroy completely. There was no mercy, no hesitation, no doubt. Within 30 minutes, 15 patrol ships were dead or dying. The remaining 5 tried to retreat, but the humans pursued them. Wasn't interested in letting survivors escape to report what they had seen. "Ma'am," Commander asked, "shouldn't we let some of them go to carry the message?" "The message will get out anyway," replied. "Right now, I want to teach them what happens when you threaten humanity." The last patrol ship was destroyed 47 minutes after the battle began. Commander died without understanding how his overwhelming numerical advantage had become a complete disaster. News of the battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. 20 Confederation ships destroyed by 1 human vessel. It was impossible, but the sensor logs didn't lie. The patrol fleet was gone. On New Harmony, the Confederation Council met in emergency session. The reports they read made no sense. "How can 1 ship defeat 20? Demanded Chancellor. "Their weapons are more advanced than we realized," reported Science Advisor. "Energy output readings are beyond anything in our database." "That's not the worst part," added Defense Minister, his voice shaking. "Look at the tactical analysis." The battle recordings showed something that chilled every council member. The humans hadn't just won, they had hunted down retreating ships like animals. They showed no mercy, no restraint, no civilization. "They're monsters," whispered Cultural Minister Para. "They enjoy killing." Ambassador Ara, who had been ignored during the previous meeting, stood up slowly. "I tried to warn you. The humans are not like us. They are predators, and we just taught them that we are prey." In space near the debris field, Captain received a priority message from Confederation headquarters. It was a desperate plea for negotiations, an offer to discuss terms, a request for mercy. She deleted it without reading the whole message. "Ma'am," asked her communications officer, "should we respond?" "No," said quietly. "They declared war on humanity when they tried to force us to surrender. Wars don't end with apologies." She turned to her navigation officer. "Set course for Confederation space. It's time they learned what humans do to people who threaten us." The Retribution moved away from the battle site, leaving behind 20 destroyed ships and the shattered remains of galactic peace. Behind them, space was filled with debris and the flickering lights of dying vessels. Ahead of them lay the Confederation, 3,000 worlds that had forgotten how to fight, about to face a species that had never forgotten how to kill. The galaxy was about to learn that there are worse things than war. There is humanity at war, and humanity had just been given a reason to fight. Fleet Admiral had never lost a battle in 200 years of service. His record was perfect: 37 victories against pirate fleets, rebel colonies, and rogue asteroids. He commanded Battle Fleet Sigma, the largest military force in Confederation history. 200 ships surrounded him as he stared at the tactical display. Cruisers, destroyers, support vessels, and his flagship, the mighty Peaceful Resolution. It was enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, "long-range sensors have located the human vessel. It's moving toward the system." "One ship against 200, Admiral said confidently. "This will be over quickly." The bridge crew nodded in agreement. They had all read the reports from the patrol fleet disaster, but those were just small police ships. This was different. This was the full might of the Confederation military. "All ships advance in formation," the Admiral ordered. "When we find this human vessel, I want it surrounded completely. No escape routes, no room for tricks." Battle Fleet Sigma moved through space like a metal ocean. The ship stayed in perfect formation, maintaining constant communication. It was a thing of beauty, the largest military operation in galactic history. Captain watched them coming on her long-range sensors. 200 ships moving in a predictable pattern, announcing their positions with constant radio chatter. She almost felt sorry for them. "Ma'am," asked Commander, "battle stations." "Not yet," replied calmly. "First we need to teach them about fear." The Retribution changed course and disappeared into the Helios asteroid field. The massive rocks would hide their energy signature and break up sensor locks. It was the perfect hunting ground. Admiral was puzzled when his sensors lost the human ship. Where did they go? "The asteroid field, sir. Their energy signature is masked by the background radiation." "Then we flush them out. Send in Squadron 7 to scout the field. All other ships maintain perimeter positions." 20 ships entered the asteroid field in formation. Their sensors swept between the massive rocks, looking for any sign of the human vessel. For 2 hours, they found nothing. Then the killing started. The destroyer Gentle Breeze was the first to die. The Retribution appeared from behind a large asteroid, fired once, and disappeared again. The Confederation ship exploded in a ball of flame that lit up the asteroid field. "Contact, Grid 7 Alpha," shouted the squadron leader. All 19 remaining ships turned toward the coordinates, but the human ship was already gone. 5 minutes later, the cruiser Harmony's light died the same way. A single shot from the darkness, then nothing. The human ship had vanished like a ghost. "This is Squadron 7, radioed Captain Aura desperately. "We're taking casualties. The human ship is using hit-and-run tactics." Admiral felt ice in his stomach. All ships close formation, stay together. But the humans weren't interested in fair fights. As the squadron bunched up for protection, the Retribution attacked from a new angle. This time it didn't disappear immediately. Instead, it stayed long enough to destroy 3 more ships before vanishing into the asteroid maze. "How are they moving so fast?" demanded the Admiral. His tactical officer checked the readings twice. "Sir, their ship appears to be designed for this kind of combat. High speed, heavy armor, and weapons that can punch through our shields in one shot." What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had perfected asteroid fighting during the Belt Wars. Pirates and miners had turned the rock fields around Sol into where only the infastest survived, had learned to fight there as a young officer. The squadron tried to retreat from the asteroid field, but the Retribution was hunting them now. It appeared and disappeared like a predator stalking prey. Each attack claimed 1 or 2 ships before the human vessel vanished again. Squadron 7 is down to 8 ships, reported the communications officer. Admiral made a command decision. All ships enter the asteroid field. We'll find them through sheer numbers. It was exactly what had been waiting for. As the Confederation fleet spread out through the asteroid field, they lost their formation advantage. Now it was 200 individual ships scattered across thousands of cubic kilometers of space. The real horror began. The Retribution started broadcasting on all Confederation frequencies, but instead of threats or demands, the humans transmitted something far worse: the sounds of dying alien crews. The screams, the explosion noises, the final words of ship captains as their vessels were destroyed. "Turn off those transmissions," Admiral ordered. "I can't, sir. They're overriding all our communications." The psychological effect was devastating. Confederation crews had never heard the sounds of real combat death. They lived in a peaceful society where violence was theoretical. Now they were listening to their friends and colleagues die in terror. Some ships tried to flee the asteroid field, but the Retribution was faster. It hunted down the retreating vessels one by one, taking its time with each kill. The humans weren't just destroying ships, they were teaching the galaxy about fear. Captain walked through her ship, checking on her crew. They worked with calm efficiency, treating the battle like a training exercise. Her weapons officer was actually humming while he targeted enemy ships. "Ma'am," reported the tactical officer, "we're down to 130 enemy contacts. Should we finish them quickly?" "No," said thoughtfully. "Let some of them live. I want survivors to tell others what happened here." The battle continued for 6 hours. The Confederation fleet, designed for ceremonial displays and crowd control, was torn apart by an enemy that fought like a force of nature. The Retribution used every dirty trick in the human military handbook. They hacked enemy computers and displayed images of previous battles on alien view screens. They used their own damaged hull plating as improvised missiles. When Confederation Marines tried to board disabled human sections, they found that human crew members fought hand-to-hand with a viciousness that disturbed even experienced soldiers. The breaking point came when the humans boarded the cruiser Eternal Peace. Security cameras recorded human Marines moving through the corridors like predators. They showed no fear, no hesitation, just a terrifying efficiency in combat. When Captain Ara tried to surrender, the human boarding leader's response became legendary across the galaxy. "Your species declared war on humanity. Wars don't end with surrender. They end when one side can no longer fight." Admiral watched his perfect record die along with his fleet. Ship after ship disappeared from his tactical display. His flagship was one of the last vessels still intact. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "the human captain is requesting to speak with you." Captain's face appeared on the main screen. She looked calm and professional, as if she had been attending a peaceful meeting instead of destroying the largest fleet in galactic history. "Admiral," she said politely, "I'm prepared to accept your surrender." "You've won," Admiral said bitterly. "What are your terms?" "No terms, no conditions, total surrender of all remaining vessels and crew." "But what about prisoner rights? What about treatment of wounded? What about—" "Cut him off. Admiral, your people tried to force us to give up everything that makes us human. You sent fleets to destroy us when we refused. Now you face the consequences." The transmission ended. Within an hour, the remaining ships of Battle Fleet Sigma had either surrendered or been destroyed. Of 200 vessels that entered the battle, only 15 survived as prisoners. Admiral sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed only empty space and debris. In 6 hours, the largest fleet in Confederation history had been destroyed by a single human ship. But the worst part wasn't the military defeat. It was the realization that this wasn't even humanity's main fleet. This was just one ship, with one crew, from one species that the galaxy was only beginning to understand. As rescue ships arrived to collect survivors, Admiral Zen began writing his final report. It contained only one recommendation: do not fight the humans. We are not equipped to face this kind of enemy. His warning, like all the others before it, would be ignored until it was far too late. The news spread across the galaxy like a virus. Battle Fleet Sigma was gone. 200 ships destroyed by one human vessel. The impossible had happened, and the Confederation faced something they had never experienced: total military defeat. On New Harmony, the Confederation Council met in emergency session for the 5th time in 7 days. The chamber was half empty. Many representatives had fled to their home worlds when the reports started coming in. Those who remained looked like people attending their own funeral. "The Outer Rim colonies are surrendering," reported Foreign Minister, his voice shaking. 17 worlds have declared independence rather than face human retaliation. Chancellor stared at the tactical display, showing red markers spreading across Confederation space. Each red dot represented another world lost to panic and fear. "How many ships do we have left?" she asked weakly. 312 vessels across all remaining fleets," replied Defense Minister. "But sir, they're refusing orders. Ship captains are abandoning their posts rather than face the humans in battle." The room fell silent. The largest government in galactic history was collapsing because of one alien ship and its crew. "Perhaps," suggested Ambassador Aura quietly, "we should consider Captain's terms." Those terms had arrived 3 days earlier: complete and unconditional surrender of all Confederation military forces, acknowledgement of human sovereignty over all contested space, recognition that humanity was not seeking to join galactic civilization. Galactic civilization would adapt to humanity's presence. "We cannot accept such demands," Chancellor declared. "The Confederation has ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. We will not surrender to barbarians." But even as she spoke, more reports arrived. Long-range scouts had detected massive energy signatures moving toward Confederation space. Not one human ship, but dozens. The humans weren't just sending the retribution, they were bringing their entire fleet. Captain stood on the bridge of her ship, reading the latest intelligence reports. Human ships were arriving from Earth through the jump gates. The UES Vengeance, the UES Prometheus vessels that had fought in the corporate wars and the Titan Rebellion. Each one was a mobile fortress crewed by veterans who had learned warfare in the hardest schools in human space. "Ma'am," reported Commander, "Admiral Harrison is requesting fleet coordination." Smiled. Admiral Sarah Harrison was a legend in the human navy. She had broken the Mars corporate rebellion and fought the pirate kings of the Jupiter system. If she was coming, the Confederation was about to learn what real warfare looked like. "Tell the Admiral we'll coordinate through Battle Plan Omega," replied. Battle Plan Omega was something the aliens would never understand. It wasn't just a military strategy. It was a complete restructuring of galactic civilization. The humans hadn't come to conquer individual worlds. They had come to replace the entire political structure of the galaxy. On the farming world of Gentle Meadows, Citizen Ara watched the news feeds with growing horror. The human fleet was approaching, and there was no military force left to stop them. Confederation ships had fled or surrendered without firing a shot. "Mama," asked her young daughter, "what are humans?" Ara struggled to find words. How could she explain monsters to a child who had never known violence? "They're different from us, sweetness. They come from a world where everything tries to kill everything else. They learn to be the best killers of all." Similar conversations were happening on 10,000 worlds. Parents trying to explain the concept of apex predators to children who had grown up believing the universe was safe and civilized. The human fleet arrived at New Harmony exactly 1 week after Captain's ultimatum expired. 47 ships arranged themselves around the Confederation capital world. They made no demands, issued no threats. They simply waited. On the planet's surface, Chancellor watched the alien vessels through her office window. They hung in space like black daggers pointed at her world's heart. The sight made her feel physically ill. "Chancellor," her aide announced, "Captain is requesting permission to land for final negotiations." "Send our surrender," said quietly. "Ma'am." "You heard me. Send our complete and unconditional surrender. We cannot fight these creatures." The surrender ceremony was held in the Grand Assembly Hall, the same chamber where the Confederation had ruled the galaxy for. Captain walked down the center aisle wearing her military dress uniform. Behind her came 6 of her officers, all bearing the scars and decorations of human warfare. The aliens stared at them with a mixture of fear and fascination. These were the beings that had destroyed the galactic order. They looked so ordinary: 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. But their eyes held something that chilled every alien present. They looked at the galaxy like they owned it. "Chancellor," said formally, "do you surrender all Confederation military forces and governmental authority to the human coalition?" "Yes," whispered, "we surrender." "Do you acknowledge human sovereignty over all space currently claimed by the Confederation?" "Yes." "Do you agree that all Confederation worlds will follow human law and human governance from this day forward?" Closed her eyes. 3,000 years of galactic civilization ended with her next word. "Yes." Captain nodded to Admiral Harrison, who stepped forward with a document written in both human English and galactic standard. "These are the terms of your surrender," Harrison announced. "All military vessels are to be turned over to human forces immediately. All weapons manufacturing is to cease. All worlds will accept human military governors. Any resistance will be met with total destruction." The terms were harsh but not impossible. The humans weren't planning genocide, they were planning rule. They wanted subjects, not corpses. In the months that followed, the galaxy learned to live under human authority. It was not the civilization the aliens had expected. Human governors were efficient but terrifying. They solved problems through direct action instead of endless committees. Crime dropped to 0 because human justice was swift and final. Trade improved because human military forces eliminated piracy completely. But the psychological effect was devastating. Entire species lived in constant awareness that their civilization existed only because their human masters allowed it. Children grew up learning human history alongside their own stories of wars and battles that made their parents wake up screaming. The greatest change came in how the galaxy viewed itself. For 3,000 years, the aliens had believed that intelligence naturally led to peace. Civilized beings chose cooperation over conflict, discussion over violence, harmony over discord. Humanity proved them wrong. Intelligence could also lead to more efficient killing. Civilization could be built on strength instead of agreement. The strongest species could and would rule over the weakest, not through moral authority but through superior firepower. Captain, now Governor General of the Core Worlds, stood on the balcony of her new headquarters. Below her, the capital city of New Harmony continued its daily business. Alien citizens went to work, raised their children, and lived their lives. The only difference was the human military vehicles that patrolled the streets and the human flags that flew over every government building. "Any regrets?" asked Admiral Harrison, joining her on the balcony. Watched a group of alien children playing in a park below. They were playing war games, pretending to be human soldiers. A year ago, they had never heard the word soldier. "No regrets," she said finally. "They chose this path when they tried to force us to surrender our nature. We just showed them what our nature really was." In schools across the galaxy, alien children learned new lessons. They learned about Earth, the death world that had produced the most successful predators in galactic history. They learned about human wars, human weapons, human tactics. They learned that there were worse things than conflict. There was losing a conflict to humanity. The teachers told them stories that became the new mythology of galactic civilization. Stories about the ship that came from the darkness between stars. Stories about the humans who taught an entire galaxy the meaning of fear. Stories about the day peace ended and the age of humanity began. And in the deepest parts of space, human exploration fleets continued their expansion. They carried a message to any species they encountered, a message written in plasma fire and steel. The galaxy belonged to humanity now. Any species that wanted to challenge that fact was welcome to try. None ever did. They had all heard the stories of what happened to those who fought the humans. They had all learned the most important lesson in the new galactic order. Humanity was not the species you wanted as an enemy.